If I were to flip a fair coin and ask you what would be the more likely outcome, whether it's heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, or heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, what would your answer be? Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. This is Pradeep and you're watching Vlog of Note. In this video, we're going to talk about 3 common investment biases that I have made and hopefully you can avoid in 2023. Let's get started. So first of all, usual disclaimer here, I'm not a SEBI registered investment advisor or a certified financial planner. If you want to make any investments, you should do your own market research. I'm just a person who has made a reasonable amount of money by investing in the stock market. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about investment bias. Let's start by talking about behavioral finance. Now, before the 1970s, most economists thought that people were rational and therefore their economic models would eventually fail. After the invention of behavioral finance, basically people thought that during financial decisions in real world, for people like you and me, people aren't rational all of the time. They have biases. And that's why in this video, I thought we'd talk about 3 common investment biases that people make and hopefully you can avoid in 2023. If you want to know which one I make most often, well, stick around till the end of this video. Let's jump in. So the first bias that you should probably avoid in 2023 is anchoring bias. It's a metaphorical anchor that you apply to a fact or a circumstance or a piece of knowledge and thereby make all of your subsequent decisions. For example, if a stock is currently trading at 50% below its 52-week high, you might think that's a good bargain. Or for example, if a stock is trading at 70% discount to its IPO price, you might think that's a good bargain. That's the anchoring bias. What's an example? Well, Paytm went public in November 18th, 2021 at an issue price of 2,150. On the first day of listing, they listed at a discount of 9% and people might have thought, hey, that's a good price. However, barely 1 year later, they're currently trading at about 526 rupees. That's almost a 70% discount to their IPO price. That's despite them offering to buy back their own shares at 810 rupees, a premium to the current market price. Therefore, if you looked at the stock price of Paytm and thought, hey, they're trading at such a good discount to their IPO price, I should invest, you would be making the anchoring bias mistake. Now, how do you avoid the anchoring bias? Well, first of all, you choose the right anchor. You have to use something like a discounted cash flow method to value a security. A discounted cash flow method, just as a reminder, takes all of the cash that a business is going to make and discounts it back to the current value using an appropriate interest rate. Now, as interest rates go up, obviously the discounted cash flow value will go down. You should then decide based on that anchor whether a stock is undervalued or overvalued. The second common investment bias that hopefully you can avoid in 2023 is self-attribution bias. I think it was John F. Kennedy who said in 1963 that a rising tide lifts all boats. As a contra to that, Warren Buffett said that only when the tide goes out, you realize who has been swimming naked. Basically, if you had invested in the S&P 500 in 2021, on the 1st of January 2021, by the end of that calendar year, you would have made 26.88%. Basically, self-attribution bias means all of your successes are because you're a genius. All of your failures are because of market forces. If you had invested into the S&P 500 on the 1st of January 2022, by the end of that calendar year, you would have lost 19%, the biggest single year calendar loss since 2008, during which, by the way, people lost 37%. Now, there are tons of people who started investing in 2020, 2021 with all of their stimulus checks and thought that they were great investors. However, 2022 has taught them a valuable lesson in self-attribution bias. Now, how do you avoid self-attribution bias? Well, it's through self-awareness. Here's a hot tip. Get married, because you need to have a partner who will ground all of your lofty ideas and tell you you're not a genius all of the time. Scott Galloway actually said that people who have a significant other build their net wealth 77% faster because they have someone else to tell them that you are not a genius. The third kind of bias that you should probably avoid in 2023 is something called loss aversion bias. Now this is really important, but basically if you buy a stock at 1000 rupees and it goes down to about 300 rupees, only if you sell the stock are you recognizing the loss. Most people are so averse to loss that they refuse to convert that notional loss into a real loss. Now here's the example of Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, who in 1979 in the form of prospect theory talked about loss aversion bias. Basically, they said that if you have a 100% chance of gaining $900 or a 90% chance of gaining $1,000, implying a 10% chance of gaining nothing, most people would choose the sure bet because they don't want to have even that 10% chance of a loss. However, if you reframe that same question and said that you have a 100% chance of losing $900 or a 90% chance of losing $1,000, most people would choose the 90% chance of losing $1,000 because they do not want to get a sure loss, and that's the loss aversion bias. Now, how do you fight loss aversion bias? You have investment rules. You can tell yourself that if a stock goes down by 7%, you will sell it because by staying invested in that stock and hoping that it will come back up to its original price, you are actually losing in terms of opportunity cost. So there you have it, 3 important biases: anchoring bias, self-attribution bias, and loss aversion bias. As to which one I make most often, well, it's loss aversion bias. I would really love to know which of these is your most common bias. Please let me know in the comment section down below. As always, please go over to YouTube, subscribe to the Vlog of Note channel, ring that notification bell so that you never miss a video, and I will see you guys in the next episode. By the way, Happy New Year 2023. Stay safe and